Hey guys, gwyned here. I am bringing you the semifinals from MPDC Season 22 Worlds. On the top of the screen you have Chipp. He is playing a Is It Aggro build, and he is up one game versus his opponent PK23, who is playing Bug Control. Let's get started here. So PK chooses to play first, unfortunately has to mulligan to 6. Chipp keeps his hand, and they're off. Opening up with a Guild Gate. Let's see if Chipp has a turn 1 play. This time he does with a Delver of Secrets. I've said before, I'll say it again, now that this is rotated out, but this was definitely the best turn 1 play in the format, bar none. So PK immediately has a Victim of Night to get rid of it. Definitely good just to get that off the board. Chipp follows it up with a Guild Gate, as does PK23. Popping an Evolving Wells, get another island. Has a turn 3 Cloudfin Raptor. Not the best timing for him, but if he can pump it, he can certainly start getting in for some damage. PK here goes ahead and plays the Ubelsal just to get it off the battlefield, get some nice value out of that. And Chipp's going to respond with a Watercourser. Interesting, this is not a card I think I've seen played very much in the format. Interesting choice, kind of like a bad... I forget the name of the card now. The Is It guy who can pump power and toughness. It's an interesting choice. I'm not quite as good as that at a 2/3, but yeah, it's still pretty good. Dodges some removal. It's good against the Ubelsal. Alright, and so he does find a Gatekeeper, letting him gain just a ton of life, keeping him at a pretty healthy life total. Let's see if Chipp's able to respond here. No play at all. And PK also is just going to go ahead and pass the turn. And no play, no land. Alright, that definitely is good for PK here, who is going to go ahead and play a Prophetic Prism, play another land, and just pass the turn. So, and Chipp continues not to do anything. It's definitely good for PK23. I'm going to go ahead and play out his Archimancer to just go ahead and get the Victim of Night back in his hand, and that'll let him kill the Watercourser or something else at the appropriate time. Chipp just continues to play lands, and PK is going to go ahead and flicker both the Archaeomancer and the Prophetic Prism, but Chipp has a shock to get rid of the Archaeomancer, still gets a card out of his card to flicker the Prophetic Prism, but does send the Archaeomancer into the graveyard. Imagine PK will want to use one of his Haunted Fingraphs to get that back. Now he just has a second Archaeomancer. But it looks like that is getting countered. Alright, he doesn't have a follow-up for that. Let's just go ahead and pass the turn back. His turn, Frostburn Weird. That's the one I was trying to think of. Watercourser is kind of like a bad Frostburn Weird. Alright, so let's see what happens here. Nothing, just plays the Frostburn Weird and passes. Obviously PK is going to go ahead and get a creature back. Let's see what he's going to do here. What was that? Oh, he exiles... I'm not sure what he's doing here. So he's exiled both the Shock and the Essence Scatter. Okay, so as a part of a casting cost, I guess. Okay, so he's burning it to cast Harvest Pyre. Okay, that makes sense. So he exiles all those to cast Harvest Pyre to get the Gatekeeper off the board, to try to minimize the amount of life PK is going to gain. Okay, that makes sense. Alright, and PK does, unfortunately, just get back the Ceruli Gatekeeper, which I don't know if that's what Chipp was going for or not, but it does keep him from getting the Archaeomancers in his hand, so it's an interesting choice of when to burn that and see how that works out for him. So let's just go ahead and burn the other one off as well. Does get the Archaeomancer that he wants, and then goes ahead and uses the Victim of Night on the Frostburn Weird, leaving him with just the 2/3. Alright, so Chipp here is just going to go ahead and pass. So even though he's down 2 lands, PK is able to get the Ceruli Gatekeeper back into play, putting him at a very healthy 34 life. And Chipp is forced to continue to pass, and at this point it's looking like PK is in pretty good shape in the game. He is able to negate the Victim of Night that would kill the Watercourser. See if Chipp has a follow-up play here. He does not, just continues to pass the turn back. We know PK does have an Archaeomancer in hand, plus one other unknown. Goes ahead and plays the Archaeomancer here, allowing him to get back Ghostly Flicker. Yeah, he does return Ghostly Flicker to his hand, and now things are definitely not looking good for Chipp. He does have another Frostburn Weird, though. See if that's able to do anything here. PK just plays a land and returns it, and Chipp does the same. And we're continuing to just draw and go. It looks like Chipp does manage to get a Delver into play. See if he's able to flip that. PK finds a Mind Rot, but that is immediately negated. And then now he's going to play an Ubelsol to get rid of the Delver. And is in really good shape here with a Ghostly Flicker in hand as well as an Archaeomancer. Chipp just finds a Cloudfin Raptor, not much to that. Alright, so not a whole lot going on. Continue to pass back and forth as they both replenish their hands. PK does find a Prophetic Prism and now a Gatekeeper Vine. Certainly clogging up the ground pretty well. Not really sure this Water Courser is at the best in this particular matchup just because it's another ground beater, and Chipp really wants flyers to be able to get past all these ground pounders. Alright, continuing just to draw. PK finds yet another prophetic prism, and basically can just continue to pass. A long game certainly favors him unless Chipp is able to run him out of time, but there's still a long 20 minutes there, so that's not very likely. They're otherwise pretty even on cards now. So end of his turn, Chipp's going to, or on second main I should say, Chipp's going to go ahead and cast a Stitch Strike. Looks like PK's deciding whether or not to let that go, but he does. He's going to go ahead and use Devour Flesh, which kills off the Cloudfin Raptor, and then uses Cremate to get rid of his Faithless Looting. Has a Dead Weight to bring the Stitch Strike down to a 1-2, which will let him kill it at some point by flickering an Ubelsol. So PK is trying to decide whether to attack, but he does not. Chipp does go ahead and attack with the Stitch Strike, and PK drops to 33, has a Think Twice as well, and then passes the turn. And PK just draws and lets his opponent go, and Chipp's going to cycle the Think Twice. And when he does that, PK is going to go ahead and use Ghostly Flicker here on both his Archaeomancer and the Gatekeeper. Let's see if Chipp has a counter to that. No, he has a Searing Spear to get rid of the Archaeomancer. I'm assuming, see if PK has an answer to that. He does have the negate on the Searing Spear, and Chipp is tapped out, so that's going to be the end of that. So he will go ahead and get rid of the Stitch Strike, get the Archaeomancer back to his hand, and now can just continue to flicker, drawing cards, and it's really going to be very difficult for Chipp to be able to accomplish much anything at this point. So he gets another island, another Think Twice, but PK is in total command of this game at this point. So it hasn't amassed components just to continue to draw him cards. Another Gatekeeper, which Chipp will try to Essence Scatter, and he will pass the turn back. PK probably needs to start attacking here. Again, he still has 20 minutes though, so both have a pretty healthy life total. And just continuing to draw. Chipp has an Nephalia Sea Kite to be able to attack in the air, which is nicely immune to the Ubelsol. So back on his turn, PK uses Devour Flesh, kills off the Water Courser. And now PK is going to go ahead and go on the offensive here. Let's go ahead and block the Ceruli. Doesn't kill it, and then PK is going to go ahead and use Dead Weight on the Frostburn Weird. Chipp looks like he's digging for some kind of answer. Does still have 7 cards in hand. Another Think Twice, but isn't able to find anything and lets that go. And now PK continues to use Ghostly Flicker. Again, Chipp's going to try to use the Searing Spear to get rid of the Archaeomancer, but PK has the answer in Dispel. So the Sea Kite gets targeted with the Ceruli, and presumably he will just continue to flicker to get rid of it entirely. And now PK can pretty much do as he wishes. Cloudfin Raptor, another Frostburn Weird, but neither of those are going to do a whole lot against the combo that he's got in his hand. He's really got to have the ability to get rid of it. Doesn't look like he does at this point, so I'm expecting that there's just not anything that Chipp's going to be able to do here. He is able to go ahead and kill the Archaeomancer, but it will allow PK to go ahead and... Oh, he's going to hit the Frostburn Weird, which means he probably... Okay, so he has a Dead Weight in hand, so it drops that down. And a Crypt Incursion will allow him just to gain like a whole ton of life unless Chipp's able to counter it, which he's not. Instead, he just kills the Ubelsaw Gatekeeper, and PK will go up to 55 life. Chipp finds a Stormbound Geist and flashes back Think Twice. PK has a Forbidden Alchemy. Of course, he's down to 15 cards. You know, this actually could come down to whoever runs out of graveyard first. Interesting. So PK here's got an Archaeomancer, but Chipp has the answer in Essence Scatter. He'll continue to swing in with both the Ceruli and the Ubelsaw, dropping Chipp down to 13. So PK's in command, basically, of life and is in control of the game, but if he's able to run his opponent out of life, he might have cards, he might just have a chance here. So Chipp drops a Water Courser, and on his turn, looks like PK is flashing back Forbidden Alchemy. Interesting strategy there. Digging for maybe his last Ghostly Flicker, perhaps? Let's see what he's got here. He does have a Victim of Night that he uses on the Cloudfin Raptor. And swings in, dropping Chipp down to 2. And keeping the Water Courser on the board. Stormbound Geist can't block, or can only block creatures with flying, so that's why he continues to attack with it, even though it would, clearly if it could block, be better for him to hold it back. And has the second Stormbound Geist, again, not doing him a whole lot of good on defense, but certainly does something on offense. PK does find a Ravenous Rats, which if he has a Ghostly Flicker, will basically allow him to lock his opponent out of drawing any more cards, but now PK's down to 9 cards, and this is looking like Chipp might actually have a chance to win this if he can stay alive long enough. But he's continuing to take 2 damage a turn, and if PK's got any, so he's still got a long ways to go to stay alive here. Chipp is able to go ahead and kill off the Ubelsaw Gatekeeper before the Archaeomancer can flicker it. He does get Ghostly Flicker back into his hand. Alright, so on his upkeep, PK is going to go ahead and flicker the Ravenous Rats, forcing Chipp to discard, but Chipp is able to cast a spell to actually counter the Ghostly Flicker and send it back to PK's graveyard, and Chipp may actually be in control of this game. Let's see what happens here. PK isn't able to do anything, it just passes, continues to have another flicker to use on the Archaeomancer and the Ravenous Rats, but Chipp is able to kill off the Archaeomancer. He is still going to have to discard, but he's played his last card, so there's nothing to discard. And continue to attack his opponent, even though it doesn't really do a lot in this situation. And PK continues to dig through his library, not sure what he's looking for here. Does find a Gatekeeper, but with only 2 cards in hand. I think that Chipp is going to win this. Not really sure why PK continued to use his Forbidden Alchemies here. I guess once he dug himself down, it no longer mattered, but he really just needed time. He has enough attackers. He might have been able to. He's doing two a turn to his opponent. Let's see if he's able. Here he's got a Victim of Night. No, another Gatekeeper. Okay, so that's not going to do it. The fact that he has all that life really doesn't matter, because Chipp can continue to stay alive, and PK draws his final card. Is able to swing in here, but Chipp drops to 3, and Chipp manages to survive here. The epic game. I don't think I've ever seen anyone manage to take a bug control player and draw them out of cards, but Chipp was able to do it. I've said if you're an aggressive deck and you are up against the Flicker Gate, you got 2 options. You can either run them out of time or run them out of cards. So, very well played for Chipp. It was an exciting match. Hope you enjoyed watching it.